Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 434. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and celebrated Vermont author, Dan Durick. Dan.
Thank you, Barney.
How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah. So this was fun. So I got to say, you have the perfect author's room behind you right now. I know our listeners can't see this, but it is, it has a cozy, you got cushions and like nice mood lighting in there. So for those that are listening to this, check out the YouTube videos and look at Dan's amazing room he's in. So I got to say, Dan, it's a nice room.
I have to sometimes check behind me at the door to make sure I'm in a basement. Behind that door is, the mechanical room. I don't want any creepy things.
So my question to you, what initially drew you to write in the horror and science fiction genres?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by the big mysteries. And I feel like horror and sci-fi bring with it an opportunity to explore the unknown.
Okay.
And, being creeped out's kind of fun too, but when the mysteries that I'm going into, and especially the Bridgewater Collection, things like, are we alone in the universe? What is the human soul? What is this reality that we live in? Some scientists say it's a hologram. Some say it's a simulation. Some say the universe is infinite. And I feel like horror and sci-fi is just a really fun way to explore that.
So are you writing this book? Who's your audience for this? Are you writing this book for you to kind of help discover questions that you want to answer? Or is this something that you want to ask questions that you want to explore with other people?
Yeah, great question. These kinds of questions sort of haunt me, right? I studied philosophy in college. So this is just stuff I think about. And it's incredibly frustrating for me that I don't have the answers. So in a way, it's therapy of getting this thing out and trying to figure out what might be going on, right? But hopefully telling them in a way that's interesting to people, that people can have fun with. So it's a balance.
And how would you define what does horror mean to you then?
What does horror mean to me? Well, horror can be really incredibly personal, right? Because for me, what is terrifying isn't necessarily going to be frightening for someone else. The unspoken horror, things like, the yellow wallpaper, that's terrifying to me. Someone else is like, "Well, it's just yellow wallpaper. Like, lady, go out for a walk." But the things like, someone running around with a chainsaw, that doesn't really scare me. So, horror, it should creep you out. Should make you feel uneasy. For me and my stories, it's not blood and guts. There really is very little of that. I like Koji Suzuki as a writer. He's one of the writers I really enjoy. And he has this way of building this world that is very much like our own. You feel almost at home there, but there's something off. And it's enough to make you feel like, I don't want to live there. I don't like this.
Right. Now, as an author, because I like interviewing authors from Vermont and stuff. So what is it about Vermont that kind of helps your creative juices flow?
Great question. What is it about Vermont? I'm wearing my Billings farm. So I
got one of those. Yeah.
I use Vermont, right? And Tether is very Vermont. Like if you live in Williston, you're going to recognize some landmarks, or if you've traveled down Shelburne Road, if you've been to Lake Champlain, right? And in the Bridgewater Collection, it's Vermont in that you're going to recognize some names. Instead of Billings Farm, it's Billings Notch. It's more like I've taken Cambridge, Massachusetts, and plopped it into Bridgewater, Vermont, which is just a small town. And Vermont definitely allows for some exploration because for me, it not being the big city allows for more of the creepy crawlies in the darkness and the shadows.
Dark Matter, as you mentioned too, because right now there's book 1, which is already out, Dark Matter. Book 2, The Mechanism of Collapse, as of this recording, will be out. Will be out this year. So for those that are watching this as an evergreen, you've probably already seen The Mechanism of Collapse. It's a Netflix movie, so you've already seen it. So, and book 3, it's basically gonna be a 3-book series, correct?
Well, the way I have it sketched, it could be 6.
Okay.
We'll see. Maybe I'm biting off more than I can chew, but.
and so Dark Matter, his blends horror with some cosmic mysteries. So what kind of inspired you for that unique combination?
Yeah, I wanted to explore this alien phenomena, right? When I was writing it, there were government officials coming forward and they were sitting in front of Congress and telling them about their experiences and what they know. And that's incredibly fascinating because I don't know what the truth is, but whatever it is, it's going to be profound, right? And so I wanted to explore that with the Dark Matter. So in that, it begins with a scientist who jumps to her death. And then a detective comes in to explore what's been going on, and it feels open and shut, right? She jumped. But something's off, and it piques his curiosity, and he's exploring that. And meanwhile, there's another cop who is being harassed by these beings, and their paths cross. And so they're exploring what are these things? Who are they? Where are they from? Are they from here, somewhere else, another dimension? The future? Are they us? How long have they been here? So all of that is just a lot of fun to play with. And of course, I'd love to know the answer, but I clearly don't. But then, the series continues, and I explore other mysteries and try to weave them together and show how it might be all interconnected.
So what kind of research did you conduct to write about this?
I've read countless books on the phenomenon. Jacques Vallée, who is a French physicist, worked with NASA. He has this whole series of books on the phenomena. I read those. I've read numerous books written by experiencers and what happened to them, which is terrifying, of course. And what's interesting then is you realize that, we could say the government's not telling us what it knows, but the phenomena itself is deceitful, right? Let's take everybody at their word, right? They say they're being taken by these beings, and it's not like they knock on their front door and say, hey, come on into our ship, let's fly around, right? They're being taken from their beds, and these awful things are being happening. And sometimes they're told things, right? Sometimes they're told, hey, this is what might happen in the future, or this is where we're from. But you can't take them. You can't take them at their word. You can't, right? The phenomena itself is deceitful, right? So you can't trust anybody in this. And I have some fun. With that. And really, with the Dark Matter at the end, it challenges you to ask that question. Well, what would I sacrifice to have those answers? Right. And our two protagonists are presented with that question very specifically, and they make different decisions.
Do you see yourself as the author going through either one protagonist or the other, or are they reflections of two aspects of you as a person?
Well, I would say that actually the wife of one of the protagonists is more like my voice, because she's the detective is very skeptical of all this. This is crazy. This is insane. None of this is real. And it's his wife who's saying, hold on, that is not very intellectually curious, right? What, you're a detective, ask the questions, right? What is the evidence telling you? So that's my voice of just trying to get the reader to look, suspend your disbelief. There are people who believe that this is happening. Let's take them at their word, right? There are scientists who say something's going on. J. Allen Hynek, this is about, I read a ton, right? So J. Allen Hynek, physicist, was a part of the government's Blue Book investigation into the phenomenon. And he's the guy who said, oh, it's, you're looking at Venus through swamp gas. And that became the thing then for people to just discount the phenomena. Well, it's just swamp gas, right? But as he did his investigation, he came to really regret that. At the end, he said, no, there's something going on here. Huh. I don't know what, but something's going on here. And it's worth exploring. And so that's what I'm trying to get across to people through her, is just like, I don't know what's going on, but we got to look.
Mm. Has your views of horror and science fiction and these unknown mysteries, has they changed at all as you were researching for this book?
Yeah, I realized I have no idea what's going on. I used to think, I'll take people for their word. There are some beings coming down from some planet, doing some things to folks. Like, people see UFOs. I've never seen anything, good or bad, I guess. But now I think I have no idea.
Right.
Your guess is as good as mine.
So how do you handle then, like, the portrayal of otherworldly beings and their interactions with humans in your stories then?
That's a real ethical dilemma. I hope they forgive me, I guess. They haven't taken me yet to punish me. So maybe they just haven't read it, though. Maybe this podcast is going to be the impetus for them to read The Dark Matter.
See?
And then I'm going to be in trouble. It's all your fault, Barney. I hope they forgive me. I don't know what's going on. And I can just say, look, I'm just ignorant. Don't punish me.
So what feedback from your readers has been most impactful for you then as the author?
It's just been really encouraging. I have received a number of people reaching out on social media saying how much they liked it and when is the next one coming out. So that certainly provides me with some energy to continue working on the series. That's been great. Yeah, it's been really positive. Been really happy about it.
And so what can readers expect then from the Mechanism of Collapse? That's being your upcoming Bridgewater Collection book.
Yeah, and it's very different. And so I don't know how people are going to take that, because The Dark Matter, there's certainly some science fiction, but largely it's psychological horror. The Mechanism of Collapse is strictly sci-fi, and the aliens are there, but largely in the background. And it's the Mechanism of Collapse is about what is the soul and challenges assumptions that we have on what the soul might be. And the Mechanism of Collapse, the title means a number of different things, right? From like the collapse of the wave function in quantum physics. So I had to read some quantum physics stuff for this. In search of Schrodinger's cat, right? Things like that, which has been a lot of fun. So it is different. It's more sci-fi. The aliens are definitely there and interested in what's going on. And then in book 3 is when these threads really come together. So I don't know how people are going to take that shift. If they want to continue to have these beings coming at them, then they might be disappointed. But hopefully you work with me here, right? Building on something that'll come to head in book 3.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. Did the storyline go in a different direction you weren't planning on while you're putting this together?
Yeah, I wrote The Dark Matter and found this amazing editor to work with. He's worked with Chuck Palahniuk and Harlan Coben and a bunch of fantastic authors. So I was so excited to work with him. And he was like, yeah, but I can't get to you for 6 months. Like, all right. So I wrote The Mechanism of Collapse while waiting. And it was a standalone novel. The Dark Matter was standalone, as was The Mechanism of Collapse. But then I realized that I'm exploring these big mysteries from what are these beings to what is the human soul. But thinking bigger picture, this all's got to be connected, right? This is all one reality. There's one story to tell. And that's when I decided I've got the time now. I'm waiting for my editor. I'm going to go back and make some adjustments and weave these stories together.
Now, when you put these together, were you, like you said, were you focusing more on themes or a character's journey, or did you want to build a world in the background first and then explore it?
It very much started with the characters, and there are a couple that are introduced in The Dark Matter. They are the focus of The Mechanism of Collapse, and then these groups come together in book 3. I feel like while I'm interested in the big mysteries, that big story, that really that's all background, that's all setting, right? It's the human drama that we connect with, right? And so how each character grows and changes is incredibly important. That's what's going to have us feel like I care enough to continue reading the story, So for me, it's more character driven. And they are tools, though, to figure out what the heck's going on in this world.
We have a lot of readers and authors and stuff that actually, will like to learn more about what it means to be an author. So I have a couple of questions for you from it, and putting on your author's hat. What has been your most satisfying moment as a writer?
There are moments where it's like serendipity or something. It just feels like you're writing something and you planted a seed you didn't even know you planted, and it magically ties things together. Like, I didn't even see that, right? And look at what happened. How did that happen? Was that my subconscious? Is everything already written and I'm just manifesting it, right? It's like magic, and it's very clear in The Dark Matter. Early on, there's a photo on the scientist's wall that's very important to her. And she takes it down and she hides it away before jumping out the window. And then, I'm just talking about one of the main characters' houses, and there's this interesting painting on the wall. And then that comes into play later, and I had no idea I'd planted that seed.
So what impact do you hope your books will have on your readers?
I'm just looking to have some fun. I hope people read it and are entertained, and I hope they ask some questions. And if they were skeptical before about something, that they open their mind and they're just curious enough to start asking some questions and be open to people's experiences, right? Like I said, I haven't seen anything weird, but that doesn't mean there's nothing weird, right? So that would be great if it opens some minds.
And so, Dan, if people want to learn more about you and your work, where is the best place they could go to?
Yeah, my website, dandurick.com, has links to my books, and I try to keep that updated as I release things. I tend to be most active on Twitter only because that's where I've had an account the longest. This is not a political statement. So, I tend to be active there. I'm not incredibly active, but and people will message me there, and I'm happy to respond.
Right. And you also have a newsletter people can subscribe to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Subscribe to that, and I don't, barrage people with emails. It's just as news comes, I'll share it.
Absolutely. So as you say, The Dark Matter, the Bridgewater Collection, book 1 is out now. So is Tether. And if you can't find it at your local bookstore, go to your local library and ask them to get it, and then put it in the local library as well. So yeah.
The people at Phoenix Books here have been fantastic. They, at least at one point, had a couple of copies. And of course, all the other major outlets it's available.
Right.
It's on Kindle Unlimited if you've got that.
Yep.
The Dark Matter's there.
Right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan. And listen, you're going to have to come back on once you have your next book out.
That'd be great. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. You want glue? Go ask your sister for the glue, okay?
But you just say don't touch.
Don't touch the glue. Where's the glue stick I gave you?
It's lost.
I told you not to lose the glue stick. All right.
So I need you to let me do one.
All right. I just got to give him a glue stick. I'll be right back, Dan. Sorry. This is going to be great for editing. This is going to be fun editing later.